based in Norfolk. I'm going to talk to you about a piece of theatre that we made about 18 months ago now. It's had a really long development process. We're going to see a clip of the trailer. I'm going to talk to you about the development and why this piece is quite so meaningful to me and the company that I work for. And then we'll talk a little bit collectively. We'll do a Q&A. I think Jess is going to help field the questions, and we can answer any inquiries you might have. This piece was designed with rural touring specifically in mind, specifically libraries, and we made it in a cluster of libraries and cafe settings. Ellen, if we can show the trailer now, that would be fantastic.
Rules for being a man. Learn to drive. The ability to propel yourself forward through the world is crucial. And the addition of a thundering engine under or in between your legs only amplifies the experience. Learn to walk. Learn to run. If you want to be better than other men, learn to fly. Rule for being a man. Be better than other men at anything you can.
Rules for Being a Man, written by Alex Oates and directed by Daniel Burgess. This piece is co-produced with Creative Arts East, and we found a really great collaboration with them in the development of the work. Alex and Daniel worked extensively with the Samaritans to hone the voice and the tone of Rules for Being a Man, which tells the story of 3 generations of men in one family. We encounter each of the men at a point of their life where they are experiencing crisis, and we find their stories and we relate to their characters. It's at times quite a harrowing tale, but there's an uplifting overall narrative to the piece. It utilizes silent disco technology to create quite a cinematic landscape that's all encompassing, that allows our audience members to truly feel encompassed and enveloped by the show. It did a micro tour in Norfolk and Suffolk libraries as we developed the piece of work and as Alex and Daniel were landing on the piece of performance. That was supported extensively by the Samaritans, and we had Samaritans at each of the shows who were able to talk and engage with audience members as they developed rapport and relationship. Some people decided to talk to Samaritans directly at the end, and there was a couple of individuals who went on to phone, so they tell us. So there was a really fantastic relationship between those as collaborators, but also supporting the touring itself. The piece was made following the death of a friend of both mine and Daniel's, who took his own life, and we were really struck by the situation and felt that we needed to do something, that we didn't know what, and we decided that we would use our craft in order to make a response to how we were feeling about the situation, and work with Alex, who had experienced a similar situation, or no, not the same individual. And we made a piece of performance. We worked with collaborator Dave K. Sound to create this cinematic soundscape, which the audiences are completely involved in. like I said, we collaborated with the Samaritans and some survivor charities to show real and authentic voice. It's set as a piece of performance in rural Norfolk, and the three men that we encounter during the course of the show truly give us a sense of place and belonging. The soundscape reinforces some of that quite stark weatherscape that we have. I'm looking out of my window now, and it's pouring with rain, and the wind is howling. So it takes me back to some of those noises and sounds. The plan originally was this was already supposed to be on a libraries tour. CAE programmed a libraries tour this season, autumn season, where it's going to go across the southeast. That obviously hasn't happened following its what should have been its Edinburgh run. The plan is to take this out in spring. Again, CAE will be programming a tour. So if you're interested in how that piece of work might sit, Karen at Creative Arts East is tour booking for that show. I'm really happy to open out the floor for questions around the work, how we did it, what it looks like in its library settings or in its cafe settings.
Perfect. Actually, Adam, thank you for that. That is one of my questions as someone who's managing through the NRTF, a project that supports and encourages taking theatre into libraries. I would love to know a little bit more about why you chose to tour this in libraries and what was the response from doing that?
We decided really early on that this show needed to reach a demographic that it was aimed at, directly around talking about mental health and breaking down the stigmas that come with not feeling okay, and particularly with men. And they're also a demographic of individuals that don't cross our theatre doors, particularly where I work in small scale and contemporary theatre practice. So we decided that the piece would have to find its own setting. So we worked with a number of different settings, so men's sheds, cafes, and places where there were already initiatives to get people through the door. So we decided that that's what we have to do in the 21st century. We don't build cathedrals and expect people to come to them. We need to take our product and our work into those settings. And if I'm honest, when we first made the piece of work, we didn't know how it was going to land, and we consciously made it and collaborated with those settings to make sure that the piece works. We saw the clip itself being developed in its first stages, where that trailer is from, in a cafe setting, because how do those headphones work? What do we do? How do we feed people in? How does ticketing work? Some of the unexpected wins we had were audience members just coming up during the course of the show. Generally speaking, most of the settings on that micro tour weren't ticketed. They were in a corner or a function room of a library. In the corner of the library was absolutely best, because people wandered over, and I handed them a headset and they said, no, I'm all right, Tar. And I went, that's all right. Just put it on while you're looking at the newspapers or the books, or while you're doing your printing. And they put the headsets on and then migrated slowly over to where the show was taking place. The beautiful thing is it works wonderfully for a COVID secure environment, because actually everyone can be really spaced out in an environment. Headsets can be wiped down, and you just need line of sight for the performer. Everything else comes through the headsets themselves. We play around with that oral experience from what the performer is playing guitar. At moments they're playing guitar and then they put the guitar down and the guitar track keeps going. So thinking about how we play with what's reality, what's in our own heads, and those voices that we all hear from time to time, and they're reinforced by that performance medium. That works so well in a non-performance setting. It generally means that the libraries, the cafes can continue to function. They might have a bit of guitar soundtrack, or indeed there might be somebody talking, but what we don't get is a full PA system playing out a show and smoke effects and stuff. It's one bloke telling the story of three men.
Yeah, it sounds perfect for those settings, and we've talked about wandering audiences, and it sounds like it would work well for that. But if you're a venue or a village hall who would like to put this, or either a library who'd like to put this on, how do you go about promoting a show and attracting an audience when it's touching on topics of suicide, depression, and mental health?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? If we all could do that extensively well, then there'd be no challenge to have. I think where we found the settings worked really, really well were where the promoter or the programmer had a relationship with their audience base. This isn't one where individuals are going to look at a poster and buy a ticket. It generally works well with wraparound work and support, having the Samaritans on side. They've been great in historically, they were great in the micro tour in co-promoting the events. It helps us tap into a network that isn't normally there, alongside things like men's sheds and other initiatives. I know in Norfolk, we have a number of initiatives that are tackling the stigma around male mental health, some of which are county funded. So again, that direct relationship between other activities, events can help that kind of cross-pollination, cross-promotion. Particularly where we are, there's sports and recreation initiatives, but very few cultural ones around male mental health. And they were really keen to help support them for that very reason. I dodged that question, I think, largely, but
I mean, I wonder, touching on organisations that promote social prescribing, is that something that you've got in Norfolk that you've linked up
Sure,
with,
it's not one we've actively collaborated with, but it seems like a real synergy there.
Obvious,
and all of those elements, I think, as we were making it, the all parliamentary group report was beginning to land. So we in terms of timelines, those things have co-grown up.
And you mentioned that the show itself already lends itself to a lot of the restrictions of being COVID safe, but is there anything else that you've developed in respect of responses to the work, or in response to what's happened in the last 6 months outside of restrictions, but just in terms of developing and presenting the show? Are there things that, if you went to see it in Norfolk and then you went to see it somewhere else, what would you notice as different or changed about that piece?
I think the quality of the product obviously remains the same through that context. I think in response to how it's been in the last 6 months, actually the thing that we've been exploring with this show directly is about a digital offer for it. How does it work in that digital medium, as many companies find the necessity to not convene individuals in a physical space, but how can we cohabit in a digital realm, such as we are today? And that notion of this piece lends itself really nicely to that. We've not embarked on that journey yet. We haven't finished playing with it in the physical realm, and I think that's the thing where we're really keen to stretch and push it. I forget the second part of that question. It was a long question and my short-term memory is not that brilliant.
Well, I think you've answered it, but just in extension of that, is this something that you feel could work online if there was a limitation to being able to develop it in person and deliver it in person?
Sure, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility at all. One of the things that we don't know, and one of the things that excites us, is making work for unconventional audiences in sometimes unconventional settings. And at the moment, that looks like online, because we need to find people that will take work. And at the moment, the people that we see crossing our thresholds in the theatres, in the auditoriums, or in the playing spaces, are those who are prepared to take risks. And there's not necessarily always a synergy there with those audience members that we want to reach with this level of work. And that's something we're conscious and mindful of.
Thank you, Adam. It's a fantastic show, and it was highly recommended to me when I first started the project. So we hope that through the project we can work with you and hope to promote it touring next year so that it can get out to more people. Keep us updated with what's happening and where it's going. And people are best, if they're interested, to contact you at All In Productions.
Absolutely, All In Productions. I was going to give my email address then, and I didn't, and I just repeated what you said, which added absolutely no way. It's adam@all-inproductions.co.uk, or find us on Twitter or Facebook.
thank you for your time today, Adam.
No worries.
And we wish you luck with the show, and we hope that it will make it. Well, I hope that it'll make it down here to Devon.
Thank you. So do we.
So thank you, and join us for. We're going to do a last-minute goodbye, a closing, and we've got Rob G, who's our poet.
Great.
He's going to close the day for us. So
Fantastic.
for that. Thank you.
Thank